Greetings to all the Telemark skiers and the Telemark curious. My name is Tyler with Valet, and I'm here today to talk to you about the age-old debate echoed through ski shops, chairlifts, and internet forums everywhere: NTN or 75mm tele setups. So today we're going to break down the differences in pros and cons in terms of price, performance, what you get from each setup, what one's easiest to get into, and we're going to determine which setup might be right for you. All right, so first we're going to start off by talking about the tried and true 75mm Telemark setup. Now, even if you're a die-hard NTN Telemark skier, odds are you started with one of these setups and you still keep one just laying around in the back corner of your garage. 75mm is tried and true, it's durable, it's reliable, and it can be found on the cheap in used gear stores or in marketplaces anywhere. All right, so let's first go over some of the pros of the 75mm setup. So first here we have the boot, which features a duck bill piece here in the front, and the tension rods of the binding secure the heel of the boot, meaning there's a really nice snug fit between the boot and the binding, meaning you have a really good feel of the ski, and you can make deep, smooth, elegant Telemark turns to whatever style that you like to ride. So if you want to go for a really deep, neat ski feel, you can do that with the 75mm setup, or if you want to keep it somewhere in the middle, you can easily do that as well. So the feel is a major pro of a 75mm setup. Another pro is that 75mm boots and bindings can be found for a fraction of the cost that NTN setups can be found for. So if you go to any sort of used gear store, odds are you can find a really cheap 75mm boot and binding to throw on whatever ski you want. So affordability is a pro, as well as the feel of the turn. Now let's get into some of the cons of the 75mm setup, some things that might make you want to think about NTN over 75. There are many NTN diehards out there that would say that the 75mm doesn't have nearly the same performance that an NTN setup does. While there certainly are 75mm setups out there that you can shred on and have been shredded on for many decades at this point, the NTN setup is going to be much more responsive and progressive. So if you're looking for the latest and greatest in downhill performance, that's just not what 75mm is. Now that being said, I will say you can shred on a 75mm setup. You're going to be on typically older gear, especially as far as boots go. And there is just newer, more modern options on the NTN side of things. As far as the future of 75mm goes, we here still love 75mm skiing. A lot of us around here ride 75mm setups still to this day. We still manufacture the bindings. We still will continue to make the gear and be committed to 75mm. The newer and latest and greatest stuff in the industry seems to be shifting towards NTN. So that is something to consider when picking up a setup, which one is going to be easier to find parts for and updates for gear moving forward. All right, now that we've spoken on the 75mm setups, we're going to talk about the new Telemark Norm, better known as NTN. Now, NTN bindings and boots have been created to sort of improve upon the original designs of Telemark bindings and 75mm setups. So now with NTN, we do without the duck bill and the toe piece, and instead we have a step-in interface. Just step right into your binding, similar to what an alpine ski setup would be like. This is due to the duck butt or second heel under the boot, and just a standard toe here that just sits snugly into an NTN binding. Overall, the main pros that you get with the NTN setup come down to performance on the uphill and the downhill. NTN boots typically come with pin touring toes here, so you can use them with a binding such as the TTS Transit that we make here at Valet, the 22 Designs Lynx, or the In Wild Majo binding. And as far as the downhill riding goes, the NTN setup features enhanced control and responsiveness. It feels better and more powerful when you're skiing downhill, and you feel like you have more control edge to edge. So when it comes to downhill riding, especially in technical and steep terrain, this just feels a lot more locked in and comfortable. And that's due to the step-in interface, the second heel, and overall just how the bindings and the boots play together. So everything I just told you about the NTN setup makes it seem like it would be the better one in every category than a 75mm, especially when it comes to the uphill and downhill performance of these setups. But it's important to keep in mind that they offer two very distinct feels. So you might be someone who just generally likes the feel better of a 75mm setup, and that might be reason enough to stick with 75 or go seek out a 75mm setup on your own. Now, aside from the feel and performance, it's important to acknowledge the price differences between these setups, and that's something that people might see as a con with NTN. While it is the latest and greatest out there on the market, it is also new, therefore it's more expensive. So if you're looking to get into telemark skiing, you might find that a 75 mil setup is the better way to start because it's more affordable and accessible and can still get you that telemark sensation. And then you can determine if it's the right sport for you and then eventually move into an NTN setup or just stick with 75. But if you're already in the game, it's worth giving NTN a shot. It really is incredible performance-wise on the up and the down. Obviously, think the TTS Transit is an incredible binding, but our friends over at 22 Designs are making incredible stuff. Same with InWild. There's a lot of great gear out there in the NTN world right now. So no matter what setup you get yourself into, it's gonna be really nice. So overall, it's up to you which setup's right for you. There is no wrong answer. We're big believers in both and we'll continue to support both. So now we've gone through the pros and cons, similarities and differences of 75 mil setups compared to NTN setups. It's important to talk briefly about TTS telemark bindings. So TTS means Telemark Tech System, and it's technically in a different class than NTN, but they're both really quite similar. So here we have the TTS Transit that we make here at Volet, and this binding takes NTN boots. And that's all it will take is NTN boots, such as the TX Pro right here. But it's technically different because it has an AT toe piece here from Plume, as well as the heel assembly from our 75 mil bindings. So the TTS Transit binding here specifically has 3 different activity positions that you can choose from. So you can move the heel assembly between these 3 positions to really customize how it feels. You can make this feel a little bit more like a 75 mil binding if you want, or you can have it be pretty active like an NTN binding. Another benefit of the TTS system, the Transit specifically here, is that you can remove this heel assembly and throw it in your pack for when you're climbing. That way, when you're on the skin track, you have an incredibly lightweight and really efficient rig on your feet. And then when you get to the top, you can take the heel assembly out, throw it back on, and then you have a really solid binding for the descent. So really the TTS system is for the efficiency-focused backcountry telemark skier. You can still use it inbounds, but really most people are going to be using this out on the skin track. It's compatible with NTN boots. In fact, these are the boots that work with this binding. So while it's not technically NTN, they're quite similar. So yeah, that's a little rundown on TTS. Overall, I hope you got some answers to your questions about NTN versus 75. Hope you have a great season. Thanks.